ऐसा है भैया, लोग सब सुनो, ठीक है? फौज अगर ज्वाइन करना है तो दिल होना चाहिए, दिमाग होना चाहिए और दिलेर होना चाहिए। अगर ये नहीं है मत आइए प्लीज।
Hello and welcome to Military Mantra. Today we have Brigadier Neil John, Sena Medal from the Indian Army. He has served in the Indian Army for more than 30 years. And in this interview, we'll try to understand his journey of joining the Indian Army, life in the Indian Army, and various life lessons that he has learned over his service. So thanks a lot, sir, for coming on this interview and welcome.
Akash, firstly, I'm very, very honored and proud to be on the show of yours. And you connected with me on LinkedIn or LinkedIn, whatever you pronounce it as. You know, I'm totally Fauji, so these kind of pronunciations are actually very difficult for me. But I'm so proud and honored that a youngster like you is doing things from his podcast where he's influencing or motivating the youth of India, which is the Zillennials. You call them Zillennials, right? So you're actually influencing them to join the most noble and valiant profession ever that has been since man came into existence. That is protecting what is yours. And while people might say protecting the nation, patriotism, nationalism, I'm just making it very simple. You just need to protect what is yours. And if you feel that this country is yours, you need to protect. And you need to protect it with your heart, soul, mind, and body. Lives are to be taken, not to be given. किसी
Understood, sir.
मूवीज में बोलते हैं ना, माँ का दूध पिया है, एंड एंड द डायलॉग इज दैट मैं अपने देश के लिए मरने को तैयार हूँ। आई एम ऑफ अ डिफरेंट एनालॉजी। देश के लिए मरने को तैयार है तो जाके कहीं और जाएं। अगर हिंदुस्तानी फौज में आए हो तो आप देश के लिए मारने के लिए तैयार हो जाओ, बिकॉज दैट्स द ओनली वे वी कैन सर्वाइव एंड absolutely destroy the enemy. So that's where my analogy and my thought process comes from. And I'm proud of you, Akash, for the work that you're doing. And we can take this on from here. For the entire youth who is watching this show, this young man is going to go very ahead in life. So keep watching him.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So if you could tell us, how was your life before joining the army, and आपका क्या motivation था फौज को join करने के लिए उस time पे?
You know, typical of an Indian teenager who's in college, I was a very good sportsman. And I was very, in a matter of fact, very modern for my times. I used to, thanks to my dad also was in the army. I used to be well attired. I had adequate amount of resources to flaunt the little goodness that I had and the kindness of the Almighty. And I was a favorite with all my teachers, with my students, with my comrades who were there, my other friends who were there, and also very popular with the women, with the girls, young girls in college. So with all that kind of an environment, I wanted something very romantic. I had dreams. I had built castles of the air. First, I wanted to be a model. Then I thought, no, forget the model part of it. Let me be a cricketer. Then I said, no, forget the cricketing part of it. Let me just get into Bollywood. And all these dreams were there. But when reality strikes you, your dad's a Fauji, your grandfather's a Fauji, and when your dad turns around and tells you, beta, kuch bhi kar le, finally to the Fauj mein hi jayega. So that actually hits you and you say, yeah, what am I made for? I'm physically fit. I'm a sportsman. I'm the favorite of a lot of people here. I have proven myself in the field of sports and games. I also was practicing martial arts, and I was ready to try anything. And the adrenaline flow was so much that I wanted to do something adventurous all my life. And I found myself joining the military and dreaming of the military and wanting to be the military. And that's how my teenage went, and that's how I joined the army.
Understood, sir. So if you could also tell us, back then, how was your experience in the service selection board, and what tips you'd like to give to the aspirants who will be, going to various SSB centers?
Once, Akash, I think for the service selection board, you're talking to an absolutely wrong guy, because my service selection board exam and how I went through it, I'll just explain to it, but it's a black demonstration and not a white demonstration. And I just got plain lucky. I'm being very, very candid with you. I just got very plain lucky. I went for this. The group of friends came in and said, "हम लोग UPSC का form भर रहे हैं, आप भी भरिए." So I filled the UPSC form. I told my dad. My dad became very happy कि UPSC का form भर रहा है, फौज join करने के लिए. So I joined. I filled the form, and then we had to go for this written exam to a place called Dharwad in Karnataka with the Dharwad University. So I went on to Dharwad, and we went by train. And ट्रेन में जा रहे थे तो टिकट मेरे डैड ने लेके मेरे को दे दिया, बोला कि ये टिकट है, ये आप जाइए वहाँ से ऑटो पकड़ के जाइए एग्जाम हॉल तक और आप एग्जाम दीजिए. So that's what happened. So I reached the examination hall, and there are a series of papers that you need to attend: English, mathematics, and general knowledge. And during my times, and English was cakewalk because I would speak English grammatically. I was very good, so English was a cakewalk. When it came to maths, oh man, I was sweating. I was sweating because the figures wouldn't make sense to me, and I was all over the place. I was wondering what to do. And in the academy, when you're giving this, sorry, in the UPS exam, when you're giving exams, the numbers are such that the same person does not have the same question paper. So the guy sitting behind you does not have the question papers. So you can't even look around and try and figure out some, because everything's objective types. You could bata de yaar. That does not happen. That does not happen. And then I saw what I could solve. I solved, and most of these papers at that time had negative marking. And I wanted to avoid the negative marking at all costs. I said negative marking nahi hone dena. I would leave my answer blank, but I would not negate it. Then something told me from above कि भैया इतना भी बेवकूफ मत बन, कुछ तो लिख दे, कुछ तो टिक कर दे. And frankly, Akash, I'm being very, very frank with you. It was that eeny, meeny, mo, जो आया वही सो. So within that entire question, you had four choices. I thought most probable यही लग रहा है, और वही probable mark मैंने कर दिया, and I passed. And that's how I passed UPSC, the written exam. After I passed the written exam, and the call came for the SSB. By that time, I had joined a little firm in Bangalore where I was working and enjoying my time earning my pocket money. And my father said, "You have to go for the SSB." So I had long hair, and I used to wear fake earrings on my ear, trying to be very modern with the modern Bangalore boys at that time. And the language in Bangalore, for everything they used to say "da." Da means darling. Short में da बोलते हैं. अभी भी बोलते हैं क्या? I don't have to speak the same language even now. So everything was da. So my dad said the da culture of yours has to go. To SSP के लिए जा रहा है, सुधर जा. And I removed that earring. I got a haircut, and I reached the SSB center. When I went to the SSB center, I told myself the only thing I would do is be truthful to myself. I will show the characteristic traits that I have. I will not indulge in faking it. When I actually did what I was, all the group tests I did the best in the way that I felt was the best. All the psychological tests, when they show the psychological images, ask you to make a story or write a little quip, all that happened. And I did not take classes from anybody. I did not take advices from anybody. I just went for it the way I thought I would give an SSP test. And we were 82 of us. It was in Bhopal, and I still remember SSB 80, it was called. And Bhopal had this tradition that time to reject maximum people. So it was called the rejection SSB. आजकल इलाहाबाद का नाम पड़ा हुआ है, पहले भोपाल का होता था. So I went there, and there was another SSB also taking place, which had just culminated, and three boys were selected, three cadet officers were selected, not officers, three gentlemen were selected to join the academy from there. And then our SSB was taking place, and we went there. In that SSB, I did what I had to, and I thought I did it very well. But one thing I maintained clearly in that SSB: speak the truth, do not camouflage your inefficiencies or indifferences, always be on time, and dress up properly. So the first impressions were the best impression that I was about to form. And that was exactly what I did in that SSB. And then when the final time came, I went in for an interview. This is a very precarious part of my entire SSB. I went in for this interview. There was this Major General sitting there. Next to him was a Brigadier sitting there, and there were 5 to 6 colonels, and the psychologist sitting there. And I was chest number one. So I was the first to go in. And I went in, and they looked at me, and everybody smiled. They said, "Yes, introduce yourself." I said, "I'm Neil John, and I come from a military background, and I want to join the army because I want to carry out with the profession that my forefathers have built, and I think I render the best of my services as an army officer." So they all smiled, but it was a very short and sweet introduction that I had. Then they told me, "You have a family also, talk about them." So I said, "I have a mom at home, she's a housewife, and I have an elder sister who is in college, and my younger brother who is also in school." Then they told me, they didn't say anything, they just looked at me and said, "Okay, Neil, how do you think you've done in your tests?" I said, sir, I did it frankly, genuinely, and the best to the best of my ability. I have not analyzed it as yet. Maybe if I hear whatever comes out from here, maybe I'll sit back in retrospection and analyze the same. But right now, I have had no time to do so. Then they said, okay, tell us, how do you think you perform in psychological tests? And I said, sir, I do not know how a psychologist analyzes a person. And since I do not know how a psychologist analyzes a person, I don't think I'm fit enough to answer your question. So they just smiled to themselves and said, okay, you go. The entire interview took place in 1.5 minutes. And I left and I came back to my seat. And when you're sitting on the seat, there are a lot of apprehensions. People keep talking, people are sweating. There are people who are giving their second attempt, some people are giving their third attempt. All this is happening at that time, and a lot of anxiety is being built up in that hall. After that, as candidates kept going, people started taking 15 minutes, somebody taking 12 minutes, somebody taking 10 minutes, somebody coming back in 2 minutes. So there the hyperventilation starts. यार उसका 15 मिनट है ये तो पक्का सेलेक्ट हुआ है इसका 1 मिनट है ये तो गया and all those things start happening and that builds up a lot of anxiety. And finally, when the instructor came, he came and stood there and he said, he gives you that narrative or the talk that he has, gentlemen, do not be discouraged. You can always try again. The army is not the military is not the only thing that you need to join. You can join other services that the nation affords, etc. And he said, I'm going to read out the names, chest numbers of those people who are selected and they are requested to stand. And that was chest number one. So he said, chest number one. And I stood up. And when I stood up, he took two more chest numbers, 1, 24, 37 or something like that. And he said, thank you very much and looking forward to interacting more with you at a later state of time. And he closed this register. And he says, for these three gentlemen who have been selected, can you come outside and meet us so we can brief you as to what has to be done? So there was pin drop silence in the entire audience because only three of us got selected. And out of the three of us, all of us had an interview for about not more than 2 minutes. Then when we came out, he told us now you have to go for your medical. He said, okay, maybe tomorrow because the tradition is that once you get selected, you wait for your medical and it takes 5 to 6 days for your entire medical to take place. So he said, no, you have to go to your medical now because the medical specialist is going on a month's leave. So you've got to get your medical done fastest. So we were rushed to the medical center. They did the medical, आंख नाक पैर सब कुछ देख लिया. एक उनका टेस्ट ये भी है कि कपड़े खोल के भी खड़ा कर देते हैं. As a youngster, you are very shy of your body because you still are not as shameless what the academy makes you later. So you're there and वो सब बोल के उसने 4 बजे तक फिट कर दिया. तो 4 बजे तक उसने फिट कर दिया. 6 बजे की ट्रेन थी. हम लोग दौड़ के गए रेलवे स्टेशन पे. वो ट्रेन पकड़ी जनरल कंपार्टमेंट में कोई रिजर्वेशन वगैरह नहीं और हम लोग मैं घर पहुंच गया. I reached my home. My father was an ex-army. He looked at me and said, "Oh, you come back." So he also knew that even if he got selected, there was a 5-6 day medical test. So he said, "पहले ही आ गया है, यानी कि इसका selection नहीं हुआ." So he didn't have the heart to ask me कि तेरा selection हुआ है कि नहीं हुआ. तो मैंने भी कुछ नहीं बोला. मैंने बोला डैड को जो समझना है समझ लो. I went back to Bangalore, started doing whatever I had to because the pocket money was very required. After SSB, it used to take 2 to 3 months to join the academy. And meanwhile, after about 2 weeks, the letter came home saying that your son has been selected and all that. He has to join on this date. My dad couldn't control himself. He just started crying tears of joy. And he says, this guy has not even told me after getting selected, कि Bangalore चला गया है, इसको बुला के लेके आओ, because इसको बहुत सारी training join करने से पहले करनी पड़ेगी. And being a typical military dad, he reached Bangalore on his own, caught me by my collar, put me in the night bus, came back to Belgaum where I stayed, and then my training started. सुबह दौड़ना, push-ups करना, रस्से चढ़ना. I said, Dad, training पे पहले ही तुम training करा रहे हो, क्या फायदा? But that is how I got into the academy, and it's been quite a journey from those days to now. It's been almost 33.5 years.
Understood,
34
sir.
years, sorry.
Understood, sir. So if you could speak about, officer-like qualities, because when we go to SSP now, we hear the term called there are some 15 OLQs. Now that you have been an officer, you have retired now. How do you look at officer like qualities, and how can an aspirant develop that?
See, there's something called inherent qualities that belong to you. There's something called inherent qualities that belong to you. And these inherent qualities are picked up by the SSB. The rest of the qualities are basically a certain amount of traits that you possess that the military built on. That comes to experience and that comes to working on ground as youngsters, right? The qualities that you need to possess while you go to this SSB, the first thing is truthfulness. To speak the truth always and every time. You see, if you do not speak the truth, you'll get caught in the quagmire of your own lives. First is speak the truth, whatever it is. A bad truth is better than a truth that has been faked. The truth will always prevail. You will be found out no matter what. So speak the truth. Secondly, is be confident. Be confident. And thirdly, wear a smile. If you can do these three things on an SSB, you win your way through. And finally, if you want to just sugarcoat it or dress up well, that trouser you're wearing, that shirt you're wearing, that shoes you're wearing should speak of character. I have believed it all my life and it has worked for me. I've been instructor in 5 schools of instruction of the Indian Army, and there also I have professed it to every officer. That is the first impression that makes you visible. All your hard work and all comes later. But in a short duration interview, the first thing is your visibility. And your visibility is only developed by confidence and by the first impressions that you create. For characters, your leadership characteristics that come out adequately in your SSB, in your group tests. Where you're working as a team, you're leading from the front. A lot of people have been trained in these academies like Minerva, etc., etc. They have leadership qualities that are forced upon them. And those are clearly made up. Those are clearly made up. You do not have to jump constantly like a kangaroo to be a leader. You can sit silent in a courtroom and still be the best lawyer. In the same manner, in a football field, your goalkeeper who's standing quiet almost through the match, to the 2 to 3 saves that he makes, proves himself to be the best goalkeeper. That same analogy is applied here. As a leader, your time has come, prove it. But don't jump into somebody else's bandwagon, which you almost do. We Indians as a community are very insecure. We also are a community that always tries to pass the blame. So somewhere down the line, these two characteristics have to be worked on, have to be avoided. Take charge, be disciplined, be confident, walk boldly, smile perfectly, present yourselves adequately, and finally, prepare yourself well. Because every book does not tell the same story. You'll agree with me. Every book does not tell the same story. Every book tells a different story. So every in the SSB, every test leads to your success in a different dimension. You need to analyze that, you need to assess that, and you need to say, आज group test है, मेरे को पता है ये 5-6 group test आ सकते हैं, पहले से थोड़ा background knowledge है, तो मेरे को कैसे इसको क्या कैसे पार करना है, इसमें दिमाग लगाना है. दूसरा, if you have a story writing test, you know that they're going to flash something to you and you've got to write your stories. Be well prepared to improve upon your handwriting and to get speed of writing. Your coordination of your mind and your pen has to be perfect. Thirdly, try and get out all negativity in your life. There's so much of negativity everywhere. And people constantly are negative to an extent, they end up questioning the world around them without questioning themselves. The issue is the first question you need to ask is, am I being negative? Am I being critical? Am I being cynical? As youngsters today, you put on Twitter. We had this incident episode where you put something on Twitter and I asked you to get it out. The fact is, the negativity in our community is so much that it has now imposed itself upon the youth. And the youth going to the SSB are absolutely in a framework where they come from an environment that their negative is portrayed in all these tests. The Indian Army absolutely absolves itself from taking people who have a negative trait. So you need to work on it, and that can be worked on. That's the biggest characteristic if you want to get into the Indian Army. Get out your negativities, work on your positivity, and get onto the framework if you want to join the bandwagon of the men in blues, whites, and greens.
अंडरस्टूड सर। सर, अगर आप बता सकते हैं आपकी लाइफ एकेडमी में कैसी थी एंड व्हिच रेजिमेंट डिड यू इवेंचुअली जॉइन फ्रॉम देयर?
एकेडमी में लाइफ बहुत अलग से होती है। यू हैव थ्री टर्म्स इन मैं इंडियन मिलिट्री एकेडमी का हूँ, मैं एनडीए से नहीं आया। एंड इंडियन मिलिट्री एकेडमी में ट्रेनिंग जो होती है 1.5 साल की होती है। और पहले टर्म में जो 6 महीने पहले टर्म के होते हैं, यू आर फर्स्ट टर्म, यू आर कंसिडर्ड नो बडी। आप ऐसे घूमते रहते हो जैसे कि आपको कुछ पता ही नहीं है। और सबसे पहली चीज इंडियन आर्मी की ये होती है कि जैसे ही आप लोग एकेडमी में आते हो, आप सिविल बैकग्राउंड से आए हो, आप फौजी के बच्चे हो, आप किसी पॉलिटिशियन के बच्चे हो, आप किसी एग्रीकल्चरिस्ट के बच्चे हो, आप किसी पुलिस वाले के बच्चे हो, तो बच्चे सब किस्म के सोसाइटी से आते हैं। और इनको एक ग्रेड पर लाना बहुत जरूरी है। इनको ये दिखाना बहुत जरूरी है कि टीम वर्क क्या होता है। इनको ये दिखाना बहुत जरूरी होती है कि एक साथ मिलजुल के कैसे रह सकते हैं। इनको ये दिखाना जरूरी होता है कि वो एसएसबी वाला टास्किंग भूल जाओ, अभी जो आपको फिजिकली एग्जर्टिव टास्किंग मिलेंगे उसको आप कैसे कर सकते हैं। ऑल दैट हैपेंस इन द फर्स्ट टर्म। द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट हिट्स यू इन योर फर्स्ट टर्म इज, पहली बार जब सीटी बजती है और आपको फॉलन पे बुलाया जाता है, आप दौड़ के जाते हो, खड़े हो जाते हो, लोग आपसे बात कर रहे हैं, आपको कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा होता है। एक सेकंड टर्मर यानी दुक्की या टिक्की बोलते हैं उसको, दुक्की खड़ा होता है वहां पर और बोलता है, ओके यू गाइस स्टैंड इन लाइन, यू डिड कम टू, यू कीप स्क्वीक। ये सब चलते रहता है, आधे टर्म्स समझ में नहीं आते कि बोल क्या रहा है ये। ठीक है, और फिर आपको एक एक जगह जमा करके आपको सीधा बार्बर के पास ले जाते हैं। अभी जो बार्बर है इंडियन मिलिट्री एकेडमी में, वो बड़ा मशहूर हस्ती होता है। और वो आपका चेहरा देख के बोलता है, अच्छा ये हीरोगिरी ज्यादा करता है। अगर ये हीरोगिरी ज्यादा करता है, वो तुम्हारे सर पे बिल्कुल वो लाइन बना के बाल काट देता है। Suddenly from the civil world where you own some hair on your head, you're almost bald. So you do not, that is the first ingredient. And believe me, we might think about it very lightly, but for a military man, that haircut becomes a practice for the rest of his life. I know officers of the Indian Army who have a haircut every week, every week. So that is the first set of discipline that goes upon you. Secondly, आप जब fallen होते हो, how to stand in a line, how to not move, how to concentrate on people who are trying to talk to you, how to as a team get onto the floor and have punishments. एक मैं आपको एक उदाहरण देता हूँ। मैं क्योंकि मैं दे वांट टू ब्रेक यू एंड पुट एवरीबडी एट द सेम लेवल। तो आप कहाँ से भी आए हो, कितने अमीर हो, कितने गरीब हो, क्या आपकी जात है, क्या रिलीजन है, किसी को कोई परवाह नहीं है। वहां पे सब आपको तोड़ के एक लेवल पे लाना चाहते हैं। और उस लेवल पे लाने के लिए फिजिकल रगड़ा बहुत, एक तो ऑफिशियल पीटी होती है, ऑफिशियल गेम होता है, उसके अलावा रात को जो थोड़ी बहुत ट्रेनिंग सीनियर कराते हैं आपकी, खाने के बाद भी डिनर डुनर अच्छे से खा के आप आ जाते हो रूम में और सोचते हो कि आज रात को पक्का सोएंगे। उसी रात को 9:30 बजे फॉलन हो जाता है और 9:30 से लेकर 11:30 बजे तक रोलिंग, क्रॉलिंग, फिजिकल एक्सरसाइजेस, क्लाइंबिंग रोप। आपका जो रेजिलियंस है, मेंटल कैपेसिटीज है, मेंटल बिल्डअप है, टीम वर्क है, उसको अनऑफिशियली तगड़ा किया जाता है। अगर यही चीज हम लोग सिविल में कराएंगे, इसको रैगिंग बोला जाता है। और यहाँ पे the idea is not to rank. The idea is to make you physically so fit and physically so resilient that you're able to pass out of the academy and become officers that are going to lead men in battle where lives are at premium and are going to be cast. So that is the analogy. तो रात को रगड़ा चलता है। एक इंसिडेंट बताऊं मैं आपको। एक मेरा सीएसएम होता था, बहुत ही अभी तो अच्छा बोलता हूँ, लेकिन उस टाइम को मेरे को बहुत ही कमीना लगता था वो। और वो मेरे को टारगेट करता था हर जगह। और एक दिन उसने मेरे को बोला, तुम बजरी ऑर्डर में आ। बजरी ऑर्डर मतलब आपके पास जो खाकी डांगरी होती है, खाकी डांगरी के अंदर बजरी भर देते हैं और बजरी लेके आप खड़े रहते हो स्पेसमैन की तरह, जैसे कि स्पेस सूट पहना हुआ है। उसके ऊपर उसने मेरे को एक, मेरा आई यूज्ड टू बी वेरी गुड एट माय रोप क्लाइंबिंग एंड पुशअप्स एंड ऑल दैट। मेरे को एक साइकिल पकड़ा दिया और बोला साइकिल को ऐसे पकड़ो और खड़े। तो मैं साइकिल पकड़ के खड़ा रहा, तो वो सो गया और मैं वेट कर रहा हूँ कुछ बबलेगा नीचे के, तो मैं नीचे करता रहा, जैसे उठता था साइकिल वापस। तो ये चलते रहा, एक दिन चलते रहा, 2 दिन चलते रहा। तीसरी रात को मेरा एक कोर्समेट है, उसका नाम है एसके शर्मा, अभी ब्रिगेडियर साहब है वो। तो उन्होंने देखा यार नील को बहुत तंग कर रहा है, तो उसने बोला मैं इसकी मदद करता हूँ। तो वो उसने भी कुछ गलती कर दी, उसको बोला ओके यू ज्वाइन, तो एस के शरण भी आ गया और एस के शरण को भी सेम पनिशमेंट। जब ये सो गया सीएसएम मेरा, एस के शरण ने थोड़ी सी शाई लाई थी, इंक, रेड इंक, और रेड इंक मुंह में डाल के उसने गार्गल करके साइकिल फेंक के ऐसे पड़ा, तो रेड इंक उसके मुंह से निकल गया। तो मैंने उठाया रवि सर को, रवि सर समथिंग हैपेंड टू एस के शरण। एस के शरण देखा पड़ा हुआ लाल इंक, लाल खून बह रहा है। Ravi, I mean, he was sweating. He didn't know what happened because he knew that if something serious would have happened, Ravi would have been chucked out of the academy. And he was the CSN, company sergeant major, and he was aspiring. And उसको पता था कि उसको अफसर बनना है, और ये जोश था, और ये हो गया। तो वो एकदम चिल्लाने लग गया, मेरे को उसने उतरवाया, बजरी निकलवाई, हमको दोनों को लेट्स गो टू द सेक्शन हॉस्पिटल। तो सेक्शन हॉस्पिटल गए हम लोग, वहाँ पे एक नर्स बड़ी थी, एक मलयाली नर्स थी वहाँ पे, तो वहाँ पे गए, तो नर्स ने मेरे को, हमको देखा, उसको देखा, नर्स भी बड़े, उनको सब कुछ पता होता है। और एसके सीएसएम को देखा, बोलो यू गो, आई विल रिपोर्ट द मैटर बिकॉज यू इल ट्रीटेड दिस बॉयज वगैरह, तो डरा, नो मैम प्लीज मैम, नो मैम प्लीज मैम करते रहा वो। फिर अंदर ले गए हमको, बोलते व्हाट द हेल, दिस इज नॉट ब्लड। हमने उसको समझाया कि हुआ क्या था, तो उसने बोला ओके ओके डजंट मैटर, 2 days सिक रिपोर्ट, एसआईक्यू सिक इन क्वार्टर, 2 दिन का हमको रेस्ट करा दिया, बोला तुम इधर रेस्ट करो, सेक्शन हॉस्पिटल में खाना खाओ। और रविशंकर उसके बाद नर्वस हो गया था, जैसे हम वापस पहुंचे लाइन में, उसके बाद रविशंकर ने हमको कभी तंग नहीं किया, और हम लोग उसके बाद बेस्ट फ्रेंड बन गए। एंड दैट वाज वन ऑफ द इंसिडेंट्स दैट आई रिकलेक्ट during the training. The training in the first year is very tough because they're breaking you, they are getting you down to the levels that everybody does, and at the same time retrospection, अगर वो ट्रेनिंग को हम ठीक से नहीं करेंगे, अगर वो ट्रेनिंग का ध्यान हम ठीक से नहीं रखेंगे, you end up being mentally not as resilient as you as the military would like you to be.
So, sir, if you could also tell us, after the academy, which regiment did you eventually join, and what was your reason for joining that?
Yeah, I joined the 69th Armoured Regiment, and I wanted to actually go. I wanted to serve my first kind of service in the Northeast, and been very fond of that kind of culture. And I always wanted. I heard a lot of stories about Nagaland and Manipur and Arunachal and all this. So the first time I wanted to go was to go to the Northeast, and then I filled the Armored Corps as my choice of arm, and I got commissioned into the 69th Armored Regiment. And the 69th Armored Regiment that time was completely in the northeast of Pakistan and north of India. So it was in Punjab, in a place called Sangrur, and that's where I started my career with. At that time, the Punjab militancy was on full floor. Was in full floor. So because of Punjab militancy, what is to happen was the entire regiment is to be deployed. The entire regiment was deployed in Punjab, and at the station in Sangrur there was nobody. And the entire how I reached the regiment and how what happened to me on my first day is a huge story by its own, a very funny one. Maybe I'll share it with you some other day because it's quite long.
So, sir, if you could tell us, as a young officer in the regiment, how was your experience? What are the various learnings, and how did they, prepare you to become a new officer there?
See, what happened with me was I was unlike the other officers of the Armored Corps who joined the regiment. For the first 6 months, you join the regiment as a rookie, right? You just come in there, you're hardly treated as an officer. And in the Armored Corps, in the older regiments, there's this tradition where until you finish your YOs, you're not called, that time the rank was second lieutenant. You got commissioned into the rank of second lieutenant. After you get commissioned to the rank of a lieutenant. So you're called, you're not even recognizable. You're not, the thing is you're not supposed to be seen or you're not supposed to be heard. Right? All you need to do was mix around with your troops, get to know them better, get to know your equipment better, get onto your tanks because armored regiments have tanks and then equipment heavy, technology heavy. Get into your tanks, get to know everything about your tanks, to ride them, to fire them, to repair them, and to be with your men 24/7. And in the armored corps, you're not even supposed to be seen anywhere. So the thing is, सुबह पीटी है, पीटी के बाद सीधा गैरेजेस में जाओगे, गैरेजेस में आपका प्री कोर्स ट्रेनिंग चलेगा, क्योंकि आप एक कोर्स करने जाते हो जिसको बोलते हैं यंग ऑफिसर्स कोर्स, और उस यंग ऑफिसर्स कोर्स में काफी पढ़ाई होती है, जो ये सोचते हैं कि फौज में आके पढ़ाई बंद हो जाती है, ये बहुत गलत फहमी है। जितनी पढ़ाई हम फौज में करते हैं, ये आईएएस के ब्यूरोक्रेट ने भी नहीं करी होगी एंट्रेंस टेस्ट में। ये मैं आपको पक्के वायदे से कह सकता हूँ। एंड then you go to the garages, you learn about your equipment, and that is how you spend the first 6 months with your men, with your equipment, learning traditions. There is also your mess traditions, your way of living, your eating, your habits, everything is fine-tuned in your regiment in your first 6 months. And that is called the grooming or mentoring period. और आपके ऊपर एक अफसर लगाते हैं जो काफी इन चीजों को पहले कर चुका है, अच्छी तरह कर चुका है। उसको बोलते हैं सीनियर सबॉर्डिनेट। सीनियर सबॉर्डिनेट, और ये सीनियर सबॉर्डिनेट का काम है, जहां भी आप गलत काम करोगे वो आपको करेक्ट करता है। और वहां पे एज अ सेकंड लेफ्टिनेंट पहले 6 महीने में आपको काफी पनिशमेंट भी दी जाती है अगर आप ठीक से काम नहीं करते हो, या आप मकरागिरी कर रहे हो, या आप जिस तरीके से आपको बताया गया है उस तरीके को नहीं अपना रहे हो। So it's completely a different life for the first 6 months. It's completely training, mentoring, grooming, and that's what happens in a regiment.
Understood, sir. So, as an officer, what was your favorite weapon back then when you used to go into combat or anywhere?
What was my? I didn't get your question.
Your favorite weapon?
Weapon. Okay, since I was a tank regiment, my favorite weapon was a tank itself.
Okay.
For a tankman, there cannot be anything better than a tank. I got commissioned, and the equipment at that time was the T-72 M1. These were Russian equipment, fantastic mobility, fantastic firepower, fantastic armor protection. At that time, the adversaries did not have anything like this. The Pakistanis didn't have it, the Chinese didn't have it. It was state-of-the-art equipment that the Indians had, and they were made to be brutal and to destroy. The tank gun 125 smooth bore was one of the most accurate guns ever fired. So you see, but the only problem is we were night blind. There were no night vision devices at that time. अभी तो सब पे लगे हुए हैं। और उस टाइम पे जो हमारा जोश मोटिवेशन होता था, रेत में टैंक चलती थी, हमारे सीओ बोलते थे टैंक पे चढ़ो, टैंक चलाओ। Doesn't matter if the tank gets spoiled or the tank falls into a ditch, doesn't matter. It can be recovered, it will work again. और ये ऐसा इक्विपमेंट होता था, ये टैंक T-72M1 मेरे साथ हो चुका है। It went and fell into a huge खड्डा, and in that खड्डा the gun went into a tilt, और सब लोगों ने बोला ये तो टैंक गया। और उसके बाद मेरा ड्राइवर था उदय, उस उदय को बोला स्टार्ट करो, निकल। उसने स्टार्ट किया और खड्डे से वो आराम से निकल गया। These tanks were built for this kind of terrain. They were built for war. And my favorite weapon at all times is a tank T-72M1, and that too I still remember my tank number 33X. जब मैं सेकंड लेफ्टिनेंट था 33.5 34 इयर्स पहले, ये टैंक जो है सब आर्मर कोर ऑफिसर जो काले डांगरी पहनते हैं और काले बेरे पहनते हैं, इनके लिए अपने टैंक से बड़े हथियार तो जिंदगी में कुछ भी नहीं हो सकता। तो बीवी से अच्छी अपनी टैंक है यार।
Understood, sir. Sir, अगर आप
We,
बता सकते हैं
we
कि got it, sir.
I
So
said
अगर
we
आप
spend more time on our tank lives.
yeah, understood, sir. सर, अगर आप बता सकते हैं कि आपका जो पहला एक्सपीरियंस था एज अ यंग ऑफिसर इनटू कॉम्बैट और इनटू अ वॉर, हाउ वाज दैट एक्सपीरियंस फॉर यू एंड व्हाट वर द वेरियस लर्निंग्स दैट यू हैड फ्रॉम दैट एक्सपीरियंसेस?
I got inducted into the Rashtra Rifles. That time the Rashtra Rifles used to be many of troops from all over. Rashtra Rifles was not a well organized like it is today. We had regiments which had manpower basically coming in from all different units, accumulated under a commanding officer and some company commanders and some young officers, and deployed in Kashmir. Right? And their main role was counter-insurgency operations. ठोकना है, terrorism खत्म करनी है. And these boys, these men came from all kinds of regiments. They came from Rajput, they came from Kumaon, they came from engineers, they came from Armored Corps, they came from different societies where every regiment has its own ethics. Every regiment has its own. Like 69 Armored Regiment builds its ethics. तो उनका अपना तरीका अलग होता है। अगर आप एक कैलोरी को पूछो तो मैंने कमांड किया, उनका तरीका बिल्कुल अलग है। आप राजपूत रेजिमेंट को बोलोगे कि आपका तरीका क्या है, उनका तरीका अलग है। सिख एक अलग है, गोरखे अलग है, नागा अलग है। सबका लड़ाई लड़ने का तरीका अलग है, सबका डिसिप्लिन अलग है। हमारे फौज में मजाक चलता है, जो भी सिख एलाई लाइट इन्फेंट्री रेजिमेंट की जो सिख एलाई जो बोलते हैं, जो भी सिख एलाई बटालियन को कमांड करता है, he is one of the best leaders. He is one of the best leaders only because these men are prone to do things which you will never expect them to do. They always surprise you, and they're the most fun troops to command, but at the same time the most challenging troops to command. So the fact is every regiment has its own ethics and ethos, and इनको सबको मिला के हमारे टाइम पे एक आरआर बटालियन बना दी, राष्ट्रीय राइफल बटालियन, और बोला भैया इनके साथ हमने टेररिज्म खत्म कर. So just imagine a body of troops that you never met, you don't know who they are, नाम तक नहीं पता उनको, कहाँ से आते हैं, कैसे रहते हैं, वो भी नहीं पता. As a young officer in the armored corps, in my troop and in my company, I knew everybody by name. मेरे ट्रूप के अंदर मैं एक ट्रूप डायरी लेके चलता था, जो हर बार चेक होता था, सीनियर ऑफिसर चेक करते थे कि आपकी ट्रूप डायरी कहाँ है. उस ट्रूप डायरी में लिखा होता था कि मेरे क्रू का नाम ये है, इनकी फैमिली का नाम ये है, इनके इतने बच्चे हैं, इनके माताजी का नाम क्या है, कौन से गांव में रहता है, कब इसकी शादी हुई. इस प्रकार से पूरा मेंटेन करते थे. लेकिन जब हम राष्ट्रीय राइफल्स में पहुंच गए, वहां देखा तो हम किसी को जानते नहीं है. यहाँ पे जो डिसिप्लिन का तरीका है वो भी अलग है. यहाँ पे आधे लोग ऐसे आते हैं जो एकदम ट्रिगर फ्रेंडली है. ट्रिगर फ्रेंडली मतलब गोलियां कोई भी चला सकता है कभी भी, सबके पास लोडेड राइफल है, और किसी का टेम्परमेंट पता नहीं होता. फौज में अगर तुम किसी को 3-4 लोगों को लाकर बिठा दो, सबका टेम्परमेंट एक तो नहीं हो सकता ना, 5 उंगली एक जैसे नहीं हो सकती. तो टेम्परमेंट इज डिफरेंट. टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट लिटिल motley crew that we created called the Rashtriya Rifles to take time. While we enjoyed the largest amount of success during that time, but it came at a cost. It came at a cost, and the cost was basically on leadership. It strained the leadership. आधे टाइम तो हमको इस पे चौंकना होता था कि ये क्या कर रहा है, वो क्या कर रहा है, वो कहाँ चला गया, उसको वापस बुला के लाओ, गोली नहीं चलानी जब तक हम बोलते नहीं है. So all these things happened. The first operation that took place in about 14 to 15 days of my commissioning, where we went into a village. I went for patrolling. My company commander was a very difficult man. But at the same time, in retrospection, अभी जब मैं सोचता हूँ, one of the best officers I've served with, called Colonel Venkateshwar. वो उसने पहले 10-15 दिन के अंदर जो मेरा ट्रेनिंग चल रहा था डिप्लॉयमेंट के लिए, मेरे को पूरा जितना अपना इलाका था पूरा जमीन पे पैदल चल के, बुलेट प्रूफ पहन के, आगे प्लेट, पीछे प्लेट, सर में हेलमेट, at least 24-25 kgs been carried on your body, रात भर चलाता था. वही कंपनी कमांडर ने, जब मैं बीमार हुआ, I felt sick very badly because I caught a cold, और टीथ पे चैटिंग में दांत कटकटा रहे थे. उस कंपनी कमांडर ने, जो मेजर साहब थे, मेरे पैर को मसाज किया पूरी रात. So that is the kind of leadership that I have grown up with. और जो पहला ऑपरेशन हुआ था हम लोग का, एक हम लोग गांव में गए थे, और गांव में हम लोग बैठे हुए थे, और रात में कहीं से एक घर में मैंने एक दिया जलते हुए देखा. तो जब दिया जल रहा था तो हमने बोला चलो यार जाके वक्त चाय पी लेते हैं, बिकॉज इट वाज वेरी कोल्ड. तो वहां बैठ के हम लोग जब चाय पीने गए तो एक बूढ़ा बाहर आया और बोला क्या पियोगे जी. नहीं, वो लोग ऐसे पूछते हैं, चाय तो मत पियोगे जी. उनका पूछने का तरीका होता है, बट दैट्स नॉट अ बैड थिंग. एक्चुअली वांट टू, हिंदी ऐसी है. तो चाय तो मत पियोगे जी. बोला नहीं जी बिल्कुल पियेंगे जी, सर्दी लग रही है, आप तो चाय बनाइए, हम लोग 8 लोग हैं. वो चाय बना के लाया. जैसे ही चाय बना के लाया, अंदर से आवाजें आई, बचाओ. तो जब हम लोग अंदर भाग के गए, अंदर देखा कि 2 वेपन पड़े हैं वहां पे, वो हमारे नहीं थे, वो किसी और के थे. और हम लोग भाग, मैं ही था वहां पे, मैं और मेरा सूबेदार था शिंदे करके. हम लोग वापस बाहर आए, बोलो यार अपने बंदे गिनो. अपने पूरे बंदे लगे हुए थे कॉर्डन में. अंदर कौन है? तो बुढ़े को हमने पकड़ा. बुढ़े को एक छाटा मारा. तो बुढ़े से पूछा भैया कौन है अंदर? उसके 2 बेटियां थी अंदर, और उन 2 बेटियों को 2 मिलिटेंट देखने आए थे, मिलने आए. और वो अंदर बैठे हुए थे बंदूक के साथ, राइफल के साथ, लोडेड के साथ, और हम लोग बाहर बैठे. जस्ट इमेजिन द सिचुएशन. एंड दैट ऑपरेशन टुक प्लेस देयर वेयर वी टर्मिनेटेड दीस 2 टेररिस्ट्स, एंड दैट वाज माय फर्स्ट ऑपरेशन. और मेरे को मेरे कमांडर से अलावत साहब, उन्होंने पूछा ब्रिगेडियर अलावत कैसा लग रहा है विद योर फर्स्ट किल. और लोग पूछते हैं does your adrenaline actually flow, how do you feel when you kill for the first time? First time I realized I had no feelings. I had no feelings. And the emotion was dead. कोई इमोशन ही नहीं था, कोई फीलिंग नहीं था. एक काम दिया गया था कि इनको खत्म करना, तो खत्म करना है, तो कौन सा. एंड दैट इज व्हाट द इंडियन आर्मी इज ऑल अबाउट. अगर एक बार हुक्म मिल गया है तो पीछे मुड़ के देखना नहीं है. एट दैट टाइम यू कांट लुक बैक. अगर टास्क में ठोको तो ठोको. उसके बाद बातचीत नहीं होनी चाहिए बॉलीवुड की तरह, पहले गुफ्तगू होगी फिर मारेंगे, ऐसे नहीं हो सकता. एक बार हुक्म दे दिया, उस हुक्म का पालन करना बहुत जरूरी है. उसमें शोर प्रचार जो भी सोच विचार करना है उसे पहले कर दो, हुकुम के पहले, हुकुम के बाद हुकुम मानना बहुत जरूरी है. That is what I was taught, and that's how my first operation took place in Kashmir.
Understood, sir. Sir, how was your in general experience in the Kashmir Valley when you were operating there? And you told me that you before that you were already also operating in Punjab. So, in comparison, how was it different then?
Punjab was completely different. Punjab is a different form of militancy. J&K is a completely different form of militancy. पंजाब में जो लोग थे वही मिलिटेंसी के खिलाफ थे. Our Sardars were against militancy, against the idea of Khalistan. They belong to India. They still are very patriotic. The most patriotic community in the Indian Army today is a Sikh officers, a Khalsa officers. Yeah, the bravest of the brave. I know Khalsa officers, great friends, great warriors, great sportsmen, great spirits. Our Khalsa soldiers, our best soldiers are Sikh allied troops. Punjab regiment, Sikh regiments. सबसे अच्छे ग्रुप तो वही है. और उनमें कभी किसी ने कोई खालिस्तान की बात नहीं करता. ये जो लफंगी गुंडे एक जो कनाडा जा चुके हैं और वो इंग्लैंड में जा चुके हैं ये बोलते रहते हैं, लेकिन हमारे जो सोल्जर्स हैं, हमारे जो ऑफिसर्स हैं, उनके दिल में जो प्यार है देश के लिए इज मोर देन योर्स एंड माइन. दे मोर पेट्रियोटिक देन यू एंड मी. And in Punjab, the militancy was controlled by the people of Punjab with the help of the Punjab police. But in J&K, it's a different matter. J&K is India's crown, and Pakistan is looking to threaten it. हमने उनसे बांग्लादेश सेपरेट करा दिया क्योंकि वो बांग्लादेश में इतने सारे अड़चन कर रहे थे. इन बांग्लादेश they were torturing people, they were murdering people, they were raping women. You had so many Pakistani Bangladeshi children which were out of wedlock, and that is why the mutiny by the Bangladeshis happened, and we segregated Bangladesh from Pakistan. We gave Bangladeshis freedom. जो भी अभी बांग्लादेश में हो रहा है वो अलग बात है, लेकिन फ्रीडम तो इंडिया ने ही दिलवाया. तो पाकिस्तान ने उसका बदला लेने के लिए एक फोकस रखा हुआ है कश्मीर. तो ये कश्मीर उनका साइकी में वो जम गया है कि हमने भारत से कश्मीर लेना है. पागलपन की भी हद होती है. कहाँ पाकिस्तान, कहाँ भारत, क्या सोच विचार करके तुम. इट इज लाइक एन एंट टेलिंग एन एलिफेंट कि मैं तुम्हारी जान ले सकता हूँ क्या. सो it is improbable. It is Kashmir is India, India will be Kashmir, Kashmir is the crown of India, and पाकिस्तान को तो वरी करना चाहिए उनका पीओके का क्या होने वाला है. So Pakistan, Kashmir is different. I mean, Kashmir militancy, you see what happens. Militancy in Kashmir has become a way of life. Terrorism in Kashmir has become a way of life. उनको लेके कौन आता है? Radical Islamist groups. ठीक है, जिनका कोई मकसद ही अलग है. उनका मकसद भी है पैसे कमाना. कश्मीर में पैसों का धंधा बन गया है टेररिज्म. सब लोग टेररिज्म के नाम पे पैसे कमा रहे हैं. जिस दिन आप कश्मीर में बोलोगे कि हम लोग यहाँ से अभी फौज उठा के वापस ले भेजेंगे एंड यू डील विद योरसेल्फ, they cannot sustain. It's so simple. And we will not let Kashmir be harmed ever again. No way. The Indian Army is strong enough, defendable enough, and we are going to do our best to ensure that we take the war to the enemy this time. हम आपके घर में आके ठोकेंगे अभी next time. अभी तो उनको डाउट क्लियर होने लग गए हैं काफी.
Understood, sir. So you told me that initially you wanted to go to Northeast, but you eventually served there also. So how was your experience in the Northeast when you were there operating in those areas?
The Northeast is one of the most beautiful areas of India. Right? It is beautiful. The people of Northeast are the best people in the world. They're simple tons. They have no basic uh, negativity or bad sense of morality in them. They are welcoming. They are truthful. They are kind. They live a very meager life. They do not aim for huge bungalows and cars. They just want to have a happy. They want to be happy. They want to just live life happily. But modernization, the internet, has totally started corrupting the youth. You see the entire thing in Northeast today. We're having problems everywhere. In Assam, we have a demographical issue where suddenly there's a rise of one minority community. In Nagaland, the problem is different. In Nagaland, there is a sect of people who claim that India did not show so much of interest in Nagaland. That's why Nagaland was neglected for a long time. So they wanted to form their own government independent of India. But slowly, they started coming online. They want to be part of India. And let me tell you, when Op Vijay took place, the greatest contributor to Op Vijay, even the terrorist groups, what we call terrorists today, the militant groups, came in support of India, saying that if there is a requirement, we will fight for India. Now, Manipur is a different one. Whatever is happening in Manipur is a different story. It's a story between two communities. It has got nothing to do with religion. It has got nothing to do with anything except differences of communities and land. And Mizoram is a different story. You see Mizoram today, it's called the London of the Northeast. Traffic discipline, houses, cleanliness, educated people, everything in Mizoram. Arunachal, beautiful. In fact, I think every Indian should go into the Northeast and enjoy the company of people of Northeast. And they are just wonderful, wonderful people. And my experience in Northeast is, if I was ever to be born in India, I would love to be born in the Northeast. The most beautiful people in the world. और वादे के पक्के लोग, वादे के पक्के.
Understood, sir. So if you could tell us, when you were a commanding officer, what was your leadership style back then? And, what does leadership actually mean to you when you have to motivate your troops?
When I was a commanding officer, I had decided right at the beginning, the checkbook motto stands. The safety, honor, and welfare of the men you command comes first, always and every time. You are in this uniform because of your men. You are in the uniform because these men let you be what you are. These men come from villages, they give their families up, they come down, serve there, they do not bring their families. The analogy for most of them are कि मैंने शादी तो कर ली है लेकिन बीवी मेरी मेरे बुजुर्ग father और mother का देखभाल कर रहे हैं. So they prefer to stay without their family. Just imagine a soldier at minus 52 degrees in Siachen and plus 50 degrees in Rajasthan, standing all alone through the year with 2 months of annual leave and 1 month of casual leave. माइनस करो 12 से कितने हो गए? 9 महीने. हर साल के 9 महीने अपनी जिंदगी के ये बंदा ऐसे टेरेन में दे रहा है, रगड़े खा रहा है, जूते खा रहा है, गोलियां खा रहा है, ट्रेनिंग कर रहा है. ठीक है, उसका स्वेट निकला हुआ है, घाव लगे हो उनको, मेडिकली उसको चैलेंजिंग हो रहा है. और ये किसके लिए कर रहा है? अपने फैमिली को सपोर्ट करने के लिए? नो, ही इज डूइंग इट फॉर यू. ही इज डूइंग इट फॉर हिज रेजिमेंट. नाम और निशान जो ये बैच पहना है उसके लिए कर रहा है, वो अपने रेजिमेंट के लिए कर रहा है. और ये दिखा रहा है वो कि आई हैव द रेजिलेंस टू मेंटेन माय बॉर्डर्स एंड एंश्योर पीस एट ऑल कॉस्ट. ही ट्रेन्स दैट वे, ही लिव्स दैट वे. आप लोग ये सोचो, मैं अभी मुंबई में आ गया हूँ, लोग मेरे को पूछते हैं सर हाउ डू यू शिफ्ट एवरी 18 months और 2 years. मुंबई में किसी को बोलो एक घर से दूसरे घर जाने के लिए, वो तो ऐसे ही हार्ट अटैक से मर जाएगा. एंड वी शिफ्ट bag and baggage with our children, with our family, with our dogs every 18 months to 2 years from station to station. जो अगला स्टेशन कौन सा है वो किसी को पता भी नहीं होता. 15 दिन पहले बताते हैं या 1 महीने पहले बताते हैं आपका अगला स्टेशन यहाँ पे, आपको यहाँ जाना है. बच्चों की पढ़ाई, my children have changed 9 schools. My wife has seen 16 stations. I have not attended. मैंने खुद, मेरे बच्चों ने या मेरी बीवी ने कोई एनिवर्सरी अटेंड नहीं करी, कोई शादियां अटेंड नहीं करी. मैं अपने भाई के शादी पे भी नहीं पहुंच पाया. So the fact is that it's a very difficult life when it comes to how the world looks at it. But through this difficult life, the beauty is that you're together as a family. Every army officer is your family. Every army jawan is your family. जब आप रेलवे स्टेशन पे खड़े होते हो, 4 जवान दिखते हैं वहां पे, आप जाके बात करते हो, जो खुशी होती है उनमें भी और हमें भी, वो एक अलग ही हाई है. It's a different high. You see, the army is beautiful because in a cantonment you stay as a family. You fight as a family, you live as a family. There are cantonments where there are no schools. जो भी स्कूल है वो छोटा मोटा स्कूल है, वहां भी लोग खुशी से रहते हैं. गोभी लेने के लिए 150 किलोमीटर दूर जाना पड़ता है, तभी भी खुश है. खाने में सिर्फ टिन प्रोडक्ट आ रहे हैं जो कि स्टेल है, प्रिजर्वेटिव्स के साथ है, तभी भी खुश है. फ्लाइट नहीं मिलती है क्योंकि एयरपोर्ट नहीं है, रोड से जाना पड़ता है एक एक रात, तभी भी हम लोग खुश हैं. ठीक है, हु इज द हैप्पीएस्ट मैन इन दिस एंटायर नेशन विदाउट हैविंग एनीथिंग? द सोल्जर ऑफ द इंडियन आर्मी. आपने नाम सुने हैं लीमा खोंग, मुकोकचुंग, तवांग, पिथौरागढ़, जोशीमठ. I'm challenging the people of India to go and stay in the stations for more than 10 days. And we live there happily. We live there with our families. We create our own culture. We create our own lifestyles. Army is not about free CSD ka liquor. Army is about living a life less ordinary. That is what the Indian Army is all about.
Sure, sir. So if I can ask you, out of your experience of more than 33 years in the army, any three life lessons that you have learned which you still cherish, even now, what would they be?
Um, you see, in the Army, I've learned a lot of lessons. You asked me a very difficult question. But let me bring out the three most essential ones as I see it in this interview that you asked me. The first lesson is that in the Army, if anybody thinks that the Army officer does not cry, it's the biggest fallacy that you have. सबसे ज्यादा आंसू एक आर्मी जवान की आंखों में आते हैं. वो हिंदी बॉलीवुड की पिक्चर भी नहीं देख पाता जब तक उसके आंख नहीं टपकते. Why? The analogy is because this man is emotional. He cares for the people. He's got empathy. कभी भी आपने किसी आर्मी वाले को देखा है किसी के साथ बदतमीजी करते हुए? I haven't. जितने भी अड़चन होते हैं, हाँ पुलिस के साथ थोड़ा बहुत होता है क्योंकि थोड़ा बहुत जब यूनिफॉर्म में दो फोर्सेस होते हैं तो थोड़ा बहुत उनमें आमदनी चलती रहती है. But with the local people, the army is always kind. Who comes to your rescue every time your child falls into a borewell? Who rescues you? Your bridges fall. Who constructs that? Your towns are met with floods. Who comes to your rescue? तुम्हारे तुम्हारे लोग सिविल हेलीकॉप्टर से गिर जाते हैं, आपको निकालने के लिए कौन आता है? किसको आप किसी और को बुलाते हो? सिर्फ फौज को बुलाते हो ना. और वो फौजी आदमी वहां पे उस बारिश में, उस ठंडी में, उस गर्मी में, उस पानी में अपनी जिंदगी का ना ख्याल करते हुए आपको बचाता. So he's an emotional guy. And sometimes the military is an emotional fool. We do much more than we are mandated to do. That is the first thing I've learned. The army is full of empathy, it's full of love, it's full of consideration for the people of this world. Second is camaraderie and brotherhood. अगर हमको पता चल गया कि हमारा एक जवान तकलीफ में है, पूरी फौज जो लोकल आजू बाजू की है वहां पहुंच जाएगी उसको मदद करने. कौन सा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में से होगा? He must have retired. He must have gone long time back. He might not even belong to my unit. But the locals from there will gather together as military men to ensure that that man is looked after and his problems are sorted out. Thirdly, by the Indian military I've learned is that no matter what, no matter what, the Indian army is your blood. And if you ask 90% of the Indian army, people who have served in the army as officers and men, they would say, give us a chance and we'll go back to what we lived through once again. अगर अब हमको if I get an afterbirth after अगर अगर हमको और एक जिंदगी कभी मिलेगी तो सिर्फ हिंदुस्तानी फौज को डेडिकेट. And this is something which every army officer, every army JSU and Jawan will take up.
Got it, sir. So my final question to you would be, since a lot of aspirants will be watching this who wants to join the forces, be it Army, Air Force, Navy, what will be your message to all of them who wants to join the forces?
ऐसा है भैया लोग सब सुनो. ठीक है. फौज अगर ज्वाइन करना है तो दिल होना चाहिए, दिमाग होना चाहिए और दिलेर होना चाहिए. अगर ये नहीं है मत आइए प्लीज. और ऑल दोस एस्पिरेंट्स जो भी फौज में आना चाहता है एक चीज जानना कि फौज इज ऑल अबाउट एडवेंचर. जो भी आएगा फौज में उसको दिलेर होना बहुत जरूरी है, उसको दिमाग होना बहुत जरूरी है, उसमें वो दिल या जिगर होना चाहिए कि अपनी कमजोरियों को, अपने जो फियर है, तो अपनी जो व्हाट यू कॉल फियर, अपना जो खौफ है, जो डर है, उसके ऊपर काबू पाते हुए आगे की तरफ बढ़ना. अगर आप में वो गुद्दा है, वो दिमाग है, वो adrenaline rush है, so please join the army. Otherwise, please leave the army. You don't need to be in the army if you don't have the guts. You don't need to be in the army if you don't have the gumption to join the Indian army. The Indian army runs. I can tell you it's the best army in the world. And forget the technology part of it. Man to man, हम किसी की भी मैया गाड़ देंगे. ये याद रखो. So join the Indian army. They will protect you. They will secure you for life. It is a family beyond the family.
Got it, sir. So thanks a lot, sir, for your time on this session. I hope a lot of people will get insight about your life in the army and get motivated as well.
yeah, we can have another interview on whatever you want the next time, especially the army's religious beliefs. Uh, that is one thing that you need to tell the world, the army's religious beliefs, because if you have anything secular in this world, if you have anything secular in our country today, and we believe in it and we live through it, is the army and the army as a religion.
Got it, sir. Thank you again, sir, for your time on this session. Jai Hind.
All the best. Take care. Look after yourself. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye bye.
Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.